Okay, so what's new in 2019? There is a handy web page for that on the docs. And this is what I'll be using somewhat to go over the new features, some of them at least. Some of these, like Metamorphic, deserve almost a half a meeting on themselves. And that's something that I might do, as well as OpenVDB. You could spend a whole meeting on that. Hopefully you can, yeah, that should be playing for you. And let's see what else we've got. Has anybody not seen the marketing for the new LightWave? Okay. Well, that's, oh, there we go. So this is using the Unreal Bridge, and it's got fancy stuff. So that's, yeah, let's go to that Unreal. Let's see. Yes, there was a request to show the, oh no, he's not here. Well, maybe I won't show it. No, I'll still show it. It's the Unreal Bridge. So let's load up.
I'll make it easy for you. I request it.
Okay, you can request it. Yeah. Okay, scenes. I don't have something that really shows it off too awesomely, but this should get the point across. And let me go ahead and I need the Unreal. Oh, that's the wrong one, I think. What's it gonna open? Oh, that's the right one. Does everybody know what Unreal is?
It's a game engine?
It's a game engine. I've shown Unity in the past at a previous meeting, and this is it's a different game engine, and we now have a live link between LightWave and Unreal.
Is it used for is there uses for it too other than just a game engine? Are people using it for
Yes.
visualization or that kind of thing outside of an actual
Yep.
game?
It's Hollywood's starting to use it for things. Okay, I want to take it right there. There we go.
Disney uses it for a lot of stuff.
Like
Yeah.
previs or
Previous.
I think they're even using it for final shots on certain things.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're using it with.
Oh, we lost
Oh.
the big monitor.
There you go.
Okay.
No, they're using.
Oh, it went out again. Oh, I hope this isn't that problem I have sometimes.
Is this a new feature?
No.
Screensaver.
They've been using. Disney's been using Unreal for a lot of their VR and for some of their dark ride stuff
Mhm.
they're coming up with, which I can't talk about.
Yeah. So on IO, we've got the bridges, and we've got the interchange, which is used for FBX right now. And then we've got Open Unreal Bridge, which opens this panel, and I click the connect button because the editor was already open. So the two are connected now, and they can talk. So let's go ahead and send. And what this is going to do is send everything over to Unreal. And there we go. That's the camera, in case you're wondering what that weird blue thing is. So let's go to the camera view, and we can see it's now baking the illumination and all that good stuff. So here's the scene from the camera, from the LightWave camera in here. And here's this button, Live Sync. So without Live Sync enabled, if I go to the camera, I start moving around, that's not exciting. But if I enable Live Sync and I start moving the camera, you can see that it's updating in Unreal as well. So you can probably see right away, well, these aren't subdivided. So you'd want to, this scene was not optimized for sending to Unreal. It's one of the ones I had that would send over, and it demonstrated that even the textures are coming through and that you can move around live. I believe it supports animation, but you can't get super complex like a tentacled monster. I tried moving these, and they won't move, and I'm not familiar enough with Unreal to debug what's going on with this scene. But you're supposed to be able to fetch the transforms from Unreal, so if you animate something in here, or move it, you can then get that change back the other way. Otherwise, it's just one way. It's from LightWave into Unreal. Any questions that I might be able to answer?
So what would a typical workflow be if you're doing, let's say, a game in Unreal? How would LightWave come in?
Good question, because I don't use Unreal, so I'm not exactly sure how I would do that. I can see it being real useful for testing whole scenes, because you can build the scene and send it over versus build all the assets and then load them in individually. You'd be able to do, I don't know about level design, but you'd definitely be able to build your set and then just shoot it over. And it would have all the objects set up individually. I don't know why there's a weird flicker in there, but I do know that if one of these, if I move it a little, yeah, I think it was intersecting with the grid.
Z fighting.
Yeah, so now it's not flickering crazily. So, unfortunately, I did not have a whole lot of time to try out the Unreal stuff, but it does work. It's just that you have to be mindful of how your textures are set up, because if you do something crazy and wild with the surfacing, you're not going to have a good time.
Do you have to buy a license for Unreal? Or?
No, unless you're making a huge amount of money with it, or you want to release something. If you just want to download it and play around with it, it's free as far as I know. You do have to register for an account, and then when once you got your account, it'll you log in through the software so it can work, and then you're all good. And you can probably build this out to an actual EXE and then play it, so to speak. But again, unfortunately, I'm not as familiar with Unreal as I am with Unity, so that's the Unreal Bridge. Oh, let's close that. I've had it stop working sometimes, and restarting fixed it. So if you're playing around with it and you like clear the scene, load a new scene, send it over, clear the scene, load a new one and send it over. Just keep doing that for a while. Eventually, you send a scene and nothing happens. So when you clear the scene, it'll disconnect. So if you don't have this open and you're trying to send a scene, or you're doing something weird, you have to reconnect after you clear the scene. So let's show. The next thing is, you see all these menus, and there's all sorts of menus. And so let's just say I just launched layout and I want to create a box. So I got to go to menu, geometry, cube. This is 3 clicks. That's too many. There's a new thing called the flat menu. I hold down control and I tap the space. And now I've got a pop-up with all the menus on it. Everything in the menus is in this pop-up. So, but this isn't fun, because now I got to scroll all the way down, find where it is. That's, again, this is horrible. Unless I start typing.
Yeah.
And now the pop-up entries are filtered.
Nice.
So now I can just click on that, and there we go. So
Whose idea was this?
mine. The filtering wasn't my idea, but the big flat menu was. We had a request from Japan to do something with the menus, the pop-ups, because if you got a scene, imagine your pop-up is thousands of items, because you've got thousands of items in your items list, or in your, there's nothing in the scene, or you're trying to parent something or target something, and you've got a huge list of hundreds of items, and you know exactly which one you want. It's the left foot, but you've got to go through the whole list to find the left foot. So you just start typing, and there you go.
You'll find left foot.
Yeah, and it supports regular expressions. So, and it's every pop-up menu. This filtering isn't specific to the flat menu. I can come over here and type a W, and now I got everything that has a W in it. And now WI, so now it's just the things where it's got wireframe. So any pop-up menu anywhere, you just start typing and it will filter. So I said it supports regular expressions. So if I tap B.X, well, it's not going to find anything because nothing has B.X. But if I hit tab, you'll see, hopefully you can see, the little magnifying glass changed from a magnifying glass to this parenthesis, period, star, parenthesis. And if I hit tab again, actually do E.X. Yeah, there we go. So now it can toggle between regular search where it's just text. Does this text that you typed exist anywhere in the pop-up menus? Each item in the pop-up menu. Hit tab and it'll toggle to regular expression mode, which the period is a wild character or wild card. So be anything and then an X, which is going to match this right here. So, and once you toggle it to regular expression mode, it'll stay there until you toggle it back. So that's good to know. Or you restart LightWave. It'll default to plain text searching. So back to this. So technically, I could even... No, not render. No.
Congratulations, just render a lot of space.
What's the key to get rid of the menu? Isn't...
Should be just tap.
Oh. No. Well, there is a key to get rid of the menu. Yeah.
Hey, you
Oh,
found a bug.
that's
There it goes.
no, that goes to modeler. Oh, it works in modeler too. There's the flat menu in modeler. So I know one of the problems is where's that tool in modeler, like camphor,
Yeah, that's gonna help.
and it tells you, oh, it's on the multiply, external, and then chamfer. So if I go to multiply and then extend, and oh, there it is. So you can also just use it to find where stuff is. So let's close this. Well, because you can get to all the menu items via the flat pop-up, you don't technically need a menu if you want to save some screen real estate. Let's go ahead and get that box that I keep talking about. So let's look at this box. That's not very exciting. Oh, this is one other thing that this is a lot of options. And we can now, in 2018, this wasn't resizable, but now it is, because we now can scroll these properties, because this list was getting very large. Yeah, there we go. So I just want to turn off GI so it renders a little quicker. Here's some shading stuff that's new. Drag this over here. Okay, so it defaults to principled because that's the default now. So this is, so let's say you've got some, before there were nodes, there was textures, right? And you'd get to those via T buttons, which we still have T buttons, but you got to go to the standard material and then you can get a T button, right? So this is a texture stack, and you can have a node. Get rid of this, go back there. You can have a node, let me do a search. It's called a layer. So scalar layer, color layer, bump layer. Okay, so let's just set up something really quick. Procedural textures. So let's say I want this procedural texture to color my... That's the standard. I want standard. Die. Okay, that's principled. I want it to color it, and I want this to use the same texture stack for the bump. Well, there's no bump output on that texture stack. So I have to go to this one, come over here, copy that layer, come over here, paste that layer, and now I've got the same texture stack, put it into the bump. Okay, so now I've got that bump, that same, it's technically not the same, it's just a copy of it. I've got it manipulating the color and the bump. And if we want to get even more complicated, now I can also put it on the scaler, so I can use it on like specularity or roughness, which we're not going to really see it. Metallic. Okay, so it's more reflective in certain areas, but it's not really got anything to reflect too much. So let's say I'm working on the color. I'm like, oh, this looks so awesome. Let's change some settings. Let's make it more contrasty, right? That's not going to affect the bump. So now I have to either carry all those setting changes over, go over here, increase the contrast. I have to do that 3 times. But if this is a huge texture stack, that's going to be a pain in the butt. Or you're using multiples of these with slight changes plugged into different things. So, and they're a real pain in the butt if you just want the one procedural, because you have all this stuff around it, and you just want that. And there's no inputs except for color, and you only have the color or a scalar or a bump. You don't have one node with all 3. So I made the procedural node. And the procedural node is, it's like one layer of a texture stack, right? So it's just this one layer inside a node. So let's take this turbulence and let's set the options, set them to the same they were on the other thing. And you'll see that on that one node, I can output the color, I can output the value, and I can output the bump. So with one node, I can output all 3. But because it's a node now, let me bump that up. Because it's a node, you can see I can manipulate it the way I can manipulate a node. For instance, if I wanted to rotate, do something like swirl this texture around, which I made a swirl compound node. And let me move this over. I'm going to need the... Okay, there we go. What did he do? That's the new Tidy Nodes button. It's on the T key. And so if you've got a big mess of nodes and they're all over the place and it's like, oh, they're all on top of each other. Oh, this is horrible. There we go. So, right there. Zooming in, if I hold Alt, or say Control Alt, and click, I can zoom in, which matches the navigation in the viewport. So that's new. So I need from this node. Actually, where'd my... Here it is. I need the world position, and then if I take this, put it into rotation, I can make this swirl along the z-axis, and I can control that with this value, which popped up over there. So I can actually control how swirly it is, and that's not something you'd be able to do with a procedural in the texture stack, because you can't control those. You can't control the rotation on a per spot basis. You could control it in mass. You can adjust the rotation, but that adjusts like the whole thing, not a specific spot on the evaluation of that procedural. Does that make sense? Okay, I heard somebody go, so I'm going to say that was a yes.
Why do you have to input the world position when you have it in the compound node?
I don't have it in the compound node.
But you put world position in there, isn't there a input node in
That input,
It's just the input.
it's the input on the...
there? I mean,
It's-
like that big input node that's incorrectly named for users? Like source?
Well, this node...
One in the compound node?
No, this node here is different from this node.
Yeah, but isn't there a built-in input in the compound?
I don't think so. Let's find out. Nope.
Oh, okay.
And when you do a tidy, you can see it starts from the output node, which is where everything goes into, and then just arrange them in columns based on how they're connected. So if you have a huge tree, you'll have like everything heads into the output node. Internally it's the destination node. Over here it'd be the surface node. And then spreads out from there, and anything that's unconnected goes in the far left column. So I could also use it for position, get the same sort of effect. That's really wild. So you can control these. You can even use a function on these. Can't use a function on these guys. You can use a function. I patterned this off of the way these work, although that doesn't accept a function.
Does the function affect bumps?
Let's find out. I need a function node. Functions. Okay. Let's move that over there. Let's get this so we can actually see what the function's doing. The options for the procedural that you choose, because you can choose any of them. I've got some third-party ones in here even. And they work fine. They weren't affected with the giant nodal problem that we had in 2018, where all the old nodes stopped working. We didn't change that API for procedurals, so you can use old procedurals. As long as they're 64-bit, you can use them, because we're just 64-bit, as you can see right there. So as long as they work in the texture stack, you can use them with the procedural node. So, but unlike the texture editor, where the settings appear right here, instead you gotta click a button. But then you get the same settings. So, and this texture color would be right here, the foreground and background colors. I think it would be the foreground color, because you can input a background color. So let's drop that contrast. Okay, so now, do we see anything different?
Try the noise function.
Oh, let's not put that there. The noise function. Okay. Well, it's doing something. There we go. So
You don't have the bump plugged into anything.
I know. I want to just look at the color and make sure that it's actually doing something before I then try the bump.
Oh, cool.
So let's try the bump now. And yep, because if I go and disconnect it, so that's without any, so that's just the node by itself, and then you plug this in, and now you can see it's actually affected the way the procedural's getting evaluated. It's kind of being filtered through the function. I can't quite remember how that's set up, but it does use it, and it's using it for the bump. Did these not work with the bump?
Well, the other layers, they didn't have a function input. So
Oh, yeah.
But none of the standard textures in the nodes. Apparently it can't be done unless you're IFW.
Okay, so there's the color, and if we pipe this in, it definitely changed it.
Dave, what's IFW?
Imagine for Windows.
And yeah, it's not affecting the bump.
For just about everything.
Well. Yep. So it works with bump. So that's cute. And you can input a bump from another one and it'll mix with it. So the only thing it doesn't have is an alpha invert, and I intentionally left that out. It's been feature requested, but it's not an oversight. I left it out intentionally because this invert alpha is unintuitive, and I don't want to continue the unintuitiveness. So until I can do it properly, just put an invert node after what you want to actually invert. Okay, any questions about the procedural node? I can show possibly one of these. Noise. Oh, let's pop that off. So yeah, they're working, although I haven't used these in quite a while. Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then put the function. Ooh, that's awesome.
Look at
I made a thing.
Chicken pox in a box.
There we go.
Now it's like Hugh's biological nightmare stuff.
Contagion.
Exactly.
Well, it's got to be green for that. Yeah.
What's in the options thing on that?
It's the options for the actual texture, so you can change what.
Yeah.
And I can manipulate these. You know, I can still use the same swirl thing, although that's set to an extreme amount. Multiply. And it's loading on the wrong monitor. Let's go 1. So yeah, now you can see they're kind of swirling around. Oh, go over here. So that's the procedural node. I only have the IFW2. Oh no, I do have the RMAN shader ones in here too. Let's pop that off. So yeah, for a while we didn't have all the DuPont nodes, so this was a way to get those back in. So in a way, and it's just neat just for our built-in textures, because our built-in textures don't perfectly match these guys, the 2D and the 3D textures. Like even turbulence doesn't the two turbulences don't match. So if you prefer the texture stack one, you can now get it inside a node. Okay, there's also, we got a lot of stuff. Okay, let's clean up. Don't need that. There's also some material components. So before 2018, we had the shader nodes where it was just like diffuse shaders, and it's different types of diffuse shaders. We had specular shaders, a different type of specular shaders. And then you could mix and match and do whatever you wanted. With 2018, those individual components of the shading system weren't broken out. They were built into big monolithic. Well, they're not big monolithic, but it's a one-stop shop, like the principled node, the standard node, under materials. So these are all one thing. It's one whole shading model, with usually with specular, with diffuse, with reflections, and so on and so forth. With the components, it's the individual components of what would be a big node. You can now do, well, what type of diffuse shading model do you want? What type of reflection shading model do you want? I think that's reflectance. These acronyms, there's too many acronyms. I think that's bidirectional reflectance. Yes, and then transmittance function, perhaps. I don't have an example for this, I'm sorry. But they're there. They're fancy. But if it's too complicated, you can just use principled. It's dead simple to use. A lot of things, if you get texture maps, PBR texture maps, you can pipe those in. I think they would go into the principled node, would they not? Yeah. So you can pipe those into the principled node, which it doesn't have T buttons, so you have to use image nodes for those. which I think Oliver has a script that'll take those images and wire them up, correct? Yes. So, yeah, I'll put a link to Oliver's ODTools, which got updated for 2019, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Q. Let's see. Oh, we have a new node. More new nodes. Patina. Or as some people call it, Patina, which I don't think is right. Oh, that's not. Let's put it on there. So I've not had too much luck with this. I don't know if you noticed, but it's actually, there's a grid on the node editor now, and it's snapping to that grid. So there's snap to grid, and then it's back to the way it was, where I can put it wherever and be real messy, or I can snap to the grid, and now it snaps to the grid, and I can also change how bright the grid appears, whether it's bright or dark, and what size it is, and it'll snap to that. Okay, so Patina. Let's see. I don't know if you saw when I plugged it in. So there's that. Plug it in, and it changed something. It's not really meant to be used on color, though. And it's got...
You can use it on color for sure. Just change the radius a little bit.
Change the radius. Okay. Oh, this is that only self. I can show that. So if I make another cube, actually I'll just clone this one. Clone. It helps if you spell.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's CL.
Clone current item. Okay, so now I got a clone. And let's move this so I can see. Okay, so if you can see where it's intersecting, it has that same edge there as well. So that's what the only self, I think, yeah. So now it's just the edges of that single object, even though these are the same shading. It's the same surface because it's a clone, but it's two different meshes, so they're ignoring each other because only self is on. Turn it off, and now you've got this. Now,
So it's meant to be used like an alpha for dirt, where dirt would be.
yeah. So it's probably not real good to use it on a cube.
If you plug in dirt instead of the where, you'll get the inverse essentially.
Ooh. Oh, yeah. So there's... So if I put that... Let's get a texture. Crumple. And if I put dirt on opacity... That's not quite what I want. There we go. Maybe. Yeah, close enough.
Turn your reflection down.
So yeah, it's got a bit of dirt. What's the offset do, I wonder?
Looks
Oh.
like it's doing some kind of ambient occlusion calculations. Maybe that's supposed to stop like light spills.
I don't know.
Offset?
I don't remember.
So there's...
Andrew has a good tutorial video that's on the LightWave side about it.
Okay, cool. I will find the link for that and put it in the details and on the website. So, oh, no, I want this one and then the where there. So now it's the opposite. That's cool. So You can use it for edge wear or dirt. Don't we have an edge bevel thing?
Yeah, the rounded edge shader.
What's the name of that?
I think rounded edge. Do edge.
Edge shader. Okay. Oh, there we go. That's cool. So this is just 2 cubes. There's 12 polygons in this scene. And it's shading it like it's got an actual little bevel there, or a little rounded over bit. Even where it's intersecting with a different mesh. And it's got options. And again, the only self option turns that off. Beveling. So that's cute. Radius. Oh, don't go too big. Don't go that big. So yeah, because it's faking it. So if you do an extreme amount, it's gonna the fakiness gets pushed too far. But for just a little glint off an edge, so you don't have to actually just round all your edges off, to just do it as a shading trick, will save you some geometry.
So concave and convex, they don't fight with each other?
I guess not. There's concave, so
Oh, I
that's
see.
it's only showing the concave. It's only rounding a concave section,
I got it now.
and then convex is only shading where the edges are
Are bulging out.
yeah, and then both you get both.
Okay.
So that's the edge shader. I was remembering back when it was part of the Patina node. That's why I'm like, where'd it go? Because it used to be part of this thing. Okay, I think that's...
Wait,
Yes?
show the connected thing.
Oh. So we've got... this node is connected to this node and to this node. And I can now select upstream, which would be... You can see... Hopefully you can see... That green connection got thicker, and it also selected the node upstream. And it's only one node in this case, but you could have a whole network upstream, and it would select everything upstream. Or I can go select downstream, which selected, so this one didn't get selected, and now all the nodes downstream get a thicker line, and they also get selected, so now I can move them around. I can also select connected, which thickens all the lines for those involved, and everything connected to that node is selected. So if I did that on even like this guy down here, so the only way he's connected to this guy is via the surface. So it'll go shoop, 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 and select connected, and it selects the whole network. So if you had a separate network, like if I disconnected that, so this network's not connected to that network anymore. So if I select connected, it's just going to be these 3 guys. But if I come over here and do select connected, it's just going to be these guys. So you can have multiple networks that are unconnected. You will have an issue right now with tidy. It will tidy them kind of separately. Actually, if I pop this guy over here, that's not correct, but okay, so it does keep the separate networks sort of connected. It used to just flatten everything and put it on the left, and I couldn't remember what it did. So there's the stuff you care about because it's actually being used. Here's a network that's not being used, and then there's nodes that aren't being used at all. And I just keep hitting the T key to tidy the nodes, which you can also do... Yeah, tidy nodes, and it'll tell you it's the T key. So that's, and the upstream, downstream is on the period and comma and period. On at least a US keyboard, that's the left greater than and the right greater than, which kind of look like arrows. So the logic was, I want to select everything to the left, upstream, or I want to select all the stuff to the right, which is downstream. And that's why it's the left and right greater than, but that probably is only valid on a US keyboard. So that's the logic for why it shows on the period and comma key, because it's the same key as the greater than, lesser than. But I didn't want to have you to hold shift to get the greater than or lesser than. Just go with the basic key that it's on. I think that's it for the... Oh, they draw better. You probably can't tell unless you're like really up on them close, but they draw better. Drawing improvements, these little arrows and the lines are all nicely anti-aliased. That's part of the work that went in for the UI to allow scaling for high DPI, as you can see here. So now it's using, and it's not looking all pixelated, because if you had a high DPI monitor, you set the scaling to above 100%, on Windows at least, it would, the way Windows would do it, it would say, well, this program doesn't know about high DPI. So what I'll do is I'll fake it out. I'll take that image of the UI and I'll scale it up to the big window size. Well, if you're taking a small image and you make it twice as big, it's going to look pixelated, right? So tell the operating system, don't do anything for us. We will draw it bigger. And so that's what we do. We actually go in and we draw everything bigger. And so it's not pixelated. It's literally drawing everything bigger. And how I've told it to do that without having to actually use a high DPI monitor or change my settings is there's a command line shortcut. This only works on Windows. It does not work on Mac OS. But you can set the scale factor on the command line for layout and modeler. So we actually draw it bigger, so that's our high DPI support. And you'll notice the OpenGL did not get bigger. That's intended. Part of the side effects of all this work is that we can now draw things looking nicer. So the edges on these and the lines look better. It just looks better, okay? Okay, any questions about the node editor stuff? Because I spent a lot of time on that.
Is that scaling command that you had for the PC? Is that written anywhere in the docs?
It should be in the docs. I need to double check that because I had a bug report that it wasn't working on the Mac, and it's like, well, it's not for the Mac because the Mac just works. Windows has problems. If you go from Windows 7 to 8 to 10, each one behaves a little differently and treats the scaling a little differently. So those flags are in there to work around the weirdnesses of Windows. And it'll actually let you do something on Windows 7 that Windows 7 can't do. You can have per monitor scaling on Windows 7 with the command line option, because there's another option where you can actually tell it for each monitor use this different scaling value. So you can have an HD monitor and then a 4K monitor, two different monitors. Windows can't figure that out. It's either 100% for everything or 200% for everything, or whatever you set. It can't do two different monitors, two different scaling options. But with the command line option, you can tell it, okay, LightWave on the 1K monitor or the 2K monitor, don't scale that. It's a 1. But when it's on the 4K monitor, do it at 2. So that way, and as you drag it, and I can't show... Oh, no, I can show that. I have two monitors here. So, yeah, I'll just have to tweak my shortcut. This is the real exciting part of the meeting. So scaling factor. I think it's scaling... or maybe it is just scale factors. No, I think it is...
Something like scaling?
No, because it's Qt that's doing it. Because under the hood, we switched to Qt for the drawing. So we still have... I can graph it all out for you. But under the hood, what's actually drawing these is Qt. it draws it to an image, and then we take that image and squirt it into our UI. And you can see it works just fine. Every time I'm moving the mouse, it's redrawing that image, squirting it into our UI. Now, it did take some optimization, but you can see it's pretty smooth. I hope you can see it's smooth. So it's Qt doing it. I based the command line options off of what Qt's are, just so I could keep them straight. So that's factors equals, let's go 1:2. And if they don't work, I'll just rebuild them. No, okay, so it's, gotta wait for it to open. So maybe it is just scale factors.
It might have also been factor instead of factors.
No, it's factors because you can feed it multiples.
Oh.
Okay. Hold for a moment while I have a browser open on my other screen. This is the real exciting part of the meeting. Okay, so the option is... Oh, it's screen scale factors, because it's per screen. That's what it is. So it is scale factors, and then... Okay, so it's UI, it's dash dash because it uses words instead of letters. Like this is dash I because it's not a whole word. Dash dash UI, scale factors. Okay, and I might have to swap the numbers around.
Wouldn't it be easier if there was like a shorter command for that?
Picky. Okay, so...
Complain to QT.
Okay, so this window is... I have it over on my other monitor that's to my left. And what that shortcut did is it told it, this monitor over here, 1. That means no scaling because it's used as a multiplier. So whatever the OS is telling us, multiply it by 1, which means don't do anything because the operating system is set to 100% already. So 1 times 1 is 1. But for the other monitor, it was set to 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. And so we can see that as it's dragged to that other monitor, I have it half on the other monitor, half on the other. It's half on my left, half on my right. And as soon as it went from this monitor to the other monitor, it scaled up. So as you drag it back and forth, so now it's really big, but you can't see it. Drag it over here, and if I go slow, you'll see it's big, and then boop, now it's normal. So, and I didn't change the OS or anything. So this would be like you're on Windows 7. The OS is all set to 100%, but you have a 4K monitor. Everything's going to look really tiny on it, except when you drag LightWave over to it, because LightWave will scale independently of what the OS is doing. We don't have those we didn't have those problems on Mac OS, so that's why those commands aren't available on Mac OS. You won't get an error because they're still being read, but they don't function. So at least they don't function now. Whether they'll function later, I can't say. I did look at the problem. It's not an easy fix, unfortunately. So that's the screen scaling, and it's set for 2, but you could go fractional. You can put different values in the shortcut. I don't need that. You can go 1.25. Because that's something Windows will do. It'll let you go 100, 125, 150%. So now you can see it looks a bit bigger if I get the other layout over here. So we can see the 2. So this one's 100%. This one's 125. It's bigger, but you're going to have sometimes little glitches here and there because it's an odd amount of scaling. It's 125% versus 100 or 200, because when it goes 200, everything just doubles. All the math works out nicely. But when you go 1.25 or 125%, now buttons don't quite line up all the same way all the same time. But it's better if you need it just a little bit bigger, you can do that. The -F option can be used as well for changing the font. So that's that.
So Ken, is 2019
It depends on what you mean by all Qt. Everything you're seeing was drawn with Qt, except for OpenGL. That's totally different. But all the widgets. So this technically is more Qt. If I open another panel, this surface editor is more Qt than this. And you can sort of see that in the controls that are available. If I go to, let's say, well, yeah, this tree control here with the slider is different from this tree control and its slider. This is pure Qt. This is a Q window with Q widgets, customized Q widgets. This is all pure Qt. Over here we have Qt doing the drawing, but when it comes to actually the window itself, so everything is not graphical. So the title bar and the frame and all that, that's the older way of doing it. But we take that image that Qt drew and we squirt it into our UI. And that's how that's all set up. So this is technically Qt doing the drawing, but not to a Q window. This is a Q window. This is an Opal window. Technically on this, it'd be a Win32 window. On OS X, it'd be an NS window, I think. So it's the platform-specific window, and then we squirt our custom Qt drawn UI into it. So it's hard to tell on the unscaled, but all the buttons are rounded, and there's beveling and anti-aliasing, which we've had on the Surface editor since 2018. So 2018, all the old, everything but, well, we had the Surface editor, this panel, and one more, I think. Paths, that panel. Those three are all pure Qt. Everything else, everywhere you go, those are all Opal E. That's our internal name for them. But now they're all being drawn with Qt. So these are being drawn with Qt because they're Q widgets. These are being drawn with Qt because of our internal system swap out that we did. So, any questions about scaling or UI work? That was one of the major things in this release.
I do have one small question.
Mm-hmm.
On the controls in the upper right, underneath the modeler tab.
Yeah.
What's the farthest right button?
This one. It's grayed out because it's only set for one viewport right now. If I set it to this, you'll see now it lights up, and it lets you... Okay, there's this one. So it lets you make that viewport the big viewport. You'll see it's a lot...
Because I usually hit with the 0 key for that.
I think that might work. So you'll see them in Modeler. You're probably more familiar with them in Modeler because Modeler defaults to the quad view, and then you can maximize it with that button. In Layout, it defaults to a single view, which means that maximize button isn't really active all the time. But that's what that's for. It's the maximize viewport to be the one viewport.
Yeah, I just couldn't find that information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I will make sure that that's put in the docs. Yes, the Q key or the 0 key on the numpad. Let me make sure it's just the numpad one. Oh no, even on the top row. So if you hit the 0 key, it'll toggle whatever viewport your mouse is in. It'll toggle that to be the one viewport and back.
That's what I normally use.
Yeah, so it's the same in Modeler. It's just that because Layout defaults to a single view, you just have this dark gray icon. It's like, what's that for?
Unless you're not in numeric mode, in which case it'll insert a layer
In Modeler.
in Modeler.
Yeah, in Layout, no. What are you trying to do? In Layout, it'll take the, in Layout, the regular 0 works. Let me try it in Modeler. I was unaware. Oh, yeah, it doesn't do it. It shoots you over to the 10th layer. Because these keys, you can see them flying around. The 1 through 0 key are assigned to flip these around.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the 0 on the not 10 key, I don't know what that row is. But that's one difference. That's good to know about.
Thank you, that mystified me. I could not figure out.
Yeah, and we did change the icons because they are SVGs now. They're not an array of bytes to like a bitmap. So these now scale up. If you saw, actually, I can go really extreme. Extreme. Let's go. This one was. Oh, 5. Let's go 5. Okay, so this should be, yeah, there we go. So you can see those icons, they're very big.
I don't need my glasses anymore.
We're millennial training LightWave.
So you can see that it's not too usable, it's not functional, but you can see that.
That's where that flat menu option comes in then.
Yeah, but the flat menu is huge
On the
too.
screen.
So you can see that. Yeah, you can see that these they're SVGs internally, so they're resolution independent. They'll scale up to whatever we need. The way the text is drawn is Qt. It's resolution independent, so it's drawing all nice and neatly. So yep, this looks horrible.
This can load SVGs. Any chance of getting a text that can handle them again?
Did we have one?
Well, Dennis did.
Oh.
It
Um,
almost
32-bit
worked.
only. It was 32-bit only, wasn't it?
I think so. And it always crashed on me.
So we had one in theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to have one.
Yes, it would. But this is being done through Qt, so it's making a bitmap. If all you want is a bitmap, that's not hard. But if you want the same sort of resolution independence, where you can just keep zooming in on the SVG that's being mapped, that's a whole nother that's where it would have to be a procedural that can actually like look at where you're looking at on the SVG and just render that one section versus bake out a when it's loaded, it pre-bakes to a fixed resolution and then just maps that. So it'd save you time, but it's not exactly what you want. So let's see, what else? What other goodies are there? So OpenVDB's new. OpenVDB deserves its own meeting, but I do want to show at least a few things.
Please do.
Yes, so I don't know if there's any animation on this. No. But you can see...
Drag the spheres.
What's that?
Just drag the spheres.
Yes. So if I move a sphere, you can see it's kind of sluggish on this machine at least. So there we go. As it moves, it's going through and rebuilding this toroid. There's a toroid in the scene that's an actual mesh, and then there's also one that's being created from that mesh, and it subtracts these spheres. I think you made this scene, didn't you? Yeah, so if I go and look at the wrong thing, you can point me in the right direction. So it's set up as an object replacement, and the properties are this node network that needed to be tidied. Okay, so everybody can understand this, right?
Sure.
Hey, I commented the nodes.
So smooth everything a bit. So yeah, he's commented the nodes.
That helps me.
Would you say start from the left and work to the right for this?
No, well, I go from the left. Yeah, left to right.
Yeah, so you start out with a scalar that's being plugged in for the voxel size. And you got, this is the object that causes the bulge. This is the object of the two bulges. So that one's looking at one sphere. That one's looking at the other sphere. And this is the object we want to bulge out of. So this is looking at the toroid. And then this is, what's CSG stand for?
Constructive solid geometry.
Constructive solid geometry, and it's doing a union of these two bulges, and then dilating by this offset is dilating these things into the intersection. Find the intersecting voxels, and then subtracting, subtract the bulge causing original object from the intersection mass, and then subtract the bulge causing object from the main object. See, this one's, yep. And then combine the two, and then smooth them out, and then you get your final thing, which is that. So it's kind of like procedural modeling, where you have to like specifically lay out what steps you want.
Do you have other objects on there? You can just replace one of the spheres.
Let's see. What do I have? I have the 2019 content. Replace with object. Objects. What's a common? There's nothing common.
Nothing.
OpenGL maybe.
OpenGL. Okay. The dinosaur is going to be big.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Are those spheres like booleans, or are they just pushing?
So you can see, for example, the foot right now.
Yeah, the foot.
So that's where it's intersecting.
Oh.
So you could use this sort of thing for footprints and all kinds of other sort of techniques.
What is VDB?
It's a standard for exporting fake geometry.
So
Like a voxel database.
Yeah.
or
Okay,
voxel
file
data.
interchange.
I forgot exactly.
So, and it's not being smoothed right now. Let me go here and smooth it. That looks better.
I remember I looked up like what VDB stood for, and when I found out and I told everyone, they were like, because it was just not intuitive from the acronym. I'll look it up too.
Now, is there any way that you can like harden this, like turn this into like a big, huge, nasty model?
You can save these out.
It's just a model, yeah. If
Yeah,
you
it's
save
it's
the
actual
object-
mesh.
If you just save the object, it's just like any other.
Yeah, if I go
You can
to,
see the polygon count
yeah.
right there.
So this is the mesh that's the result of all this.
Yeah.
And you can make it higher detailed if you change the all the way to the left, the scalar.
Okay.
This one?
Here's why the DreamWorks engineer called it VDB.
Yeah, just change it to 1.
Oh, oh. And now I just,
Oh, well, it's not that important. It's just annoying.
okay, so higher values make it less.
Less detailed.
Okay, so if it's being sluggish, make it big, move your objects around.
Well,
Yep.
no, it's not a point.
Okay.
This is what DreamWorks engineer Ken Yusa. RVDB, so named because it is a volumetric dynamic grid that shares several characteristics with B plus trees. That was why. VDB, volumetric dynamic.
Yeah,
How
Dynamic
about volumetric
trees.
database? Well, this implies that it's kind of like bullet. There's actually computations going
Mm-hmm.
on here. It's not, you're just not exchanging data. You're actually doing computation here.
Yep.
There's stuff
Yeah.
going on here. So
That's what
why I guess it's interactive.
Yeah, that's what all these nodes are
This is more
doing.
than what I thought it was. I thought you guys were just reading volumetric data and showing it in LightWave.
No,
This
we-
is actually,
This is the first time you can actually create them.
Yeah.
you're actually doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the best workflow, if you want to move the Godzilla or the other spheres around, is just to disable the toroid in the scene editor.
Ah,
If you
so
just go to if you go to the level set, yeah, and just yeah.
okay, let me
Now
turn.
Now I can move stuff around, and it's
Where'd my dino go? And then turn him back on. Okay, so now I can. Oh yeah,
so.
yay!
And you can scale them too,
Ooh,
so that
let's scale him. Oh, come back here.
So the DreamWorks engineer who did this, he not only shared the format of the volumetric data, but also the code that does all this.
There's a library, I think.
Just like Bullet.
yeah, it's open
Yeah.
source.
So come back here, turn him on. Do I have to like frame him? It's doing
Don't
something.
think so. Yeah, probably.
There we go.
Godzilla and the Blob.
Yeah.
Godzilla eaten by the donut monster.
We just need Steve McQueen.
And also, I mean, it's also a really good way if you want to create proxy objects of that Godzilla, for example. You can do that very quickly.
So if you wanted to leave footsteps, like 10 footsteps, would you make 10
Yeah.
shoes that you would just place, okay. Alright.
There's your cavity.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And those are level sets, so those are the solids, and you can do the exact same thing with the with smoke volumes as well.
And just to preserve that into a hard model, I just had to export that,
Yep,
right?
just
Yeah, just
save current object. Save object copy should do it.
Yeah.
And then
I don't want to save it as an FTX.
test. And we should be able to, oh, it's saving. Is it still saving?
It'll probably
Yep.
take a while.
Yeah.
No, it's not that big, it's only 13,000 polys.
Load object. Where'd my object go? Did it go in
Those
There we
are
go.
the days when I had to do something like 2,000 polys.
Yep, there it is. There's
The other thing, if you wanted to
That's
back,
cool.
Go back to
That's impressive.
go back to the okay, so go
I
to
didn't
the
realize
node
it was
editor
doing that.
and go to the rightmost node and turn on wireframe first, actually. No,
which
just turn on
this
wireframe
one?
in the view.
okay, wireframe.
See the
Okay.
kind of see how dense it is.
Oh yeah.
So if you go to the adaptive and just change adaptive to 2.5.
On this one.
Yeah.
0.5.
Might have to update.
There we go.
update it,
yeah.
So you can kind of see, you can adjust the density there as well.
And does that show up? Oh yeah. Cool. So where it needs the meshes, where it needs the extra density, it puts it.
You could also now go to model and toggle subpatch on. You can subpatch it as well.
Model. Dunk. Yep. Cool. And there we go.
Yeah, it's all kinds of things you can do.
Subpatches.
I put quite a few example scenes in there.
Yes.
Traditional landscapes.
Get the if you don't have it already, get the trial and get the content and play around. There's cool stuff. There's hopefully this scene is a decent one.
Yeah, you just have to play it a little bit. So that's basically converting a gas, or simulating a gas and converting that to a solid on the fly.
So with the OpenVDB library, we can also simulate things. And so now we've got this.
Yeah, that's sometimes very useful, what we do.
Some of these aren't. Are these the old OpenVDB though? No, these are the old OpenVDB, I think.
Yeah, the explosion one, that's the old one, yeah.
Yeah. So we had OpenVDB support, quote unquote, but it was
For fog volume.
it was just for fog volumes, and it was not for making things from scratch.
If you do the particles one, it's not bad. That one is a winter one.
Yeah, let's play this one real quick.
You just
Winter is coming.
It's not a playing one, you just literally stop it after like frame 4.
Yep.
But it's just an emitter on the top, you know, the top facing polys of the word, and then you do a simulation of a gas solver of the particles, or of the voxels basically falling down onto the ground. And of course,
And there
you
we
can-
go.
because it's all procedural, you can take the winter word and replace it with something else, and the setup still remains the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then save it out, and you got your oh, don't move it. I'll just use the brand new undo that Jamie added.
Did it work?
Yeah, I moved it, and then I'm like, oh no, Control Z.
There'll be more undos next cycle.
So
Yay.
The particle one is not bad.
yeah, let's go load the particle one.
Actually, anyone in the room submit a bug report of what you'd like to see undone. Okay.
Everything.
I know everything, but they're only gonna let me do like 5 or 6 things again.
The way you said that, it sounded like, you know, report what features you want taken out. You know, you want them undone.
Oh, no, yeah, but the thing is, Ken, is I got like 5 ideas, but people who use a tool every day will have more ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Classic Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Yep. Now we're sliming the toroid.
Isn't there a copyright violation by doing that?
Yeah, we'll just change the color. It'll be fine.
So the geometry, it's being generated on the fly per frame, right? So it's not being cached to disk.
You can actually cache it to disk, although I don't recommend it currently.
Because you lose motion blur.
No, the caching is just the caching is not stable yet,
Mm.
and they do motion blur.
This is for VDB?
Mhm.
So that's John's thing? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just sending out particles?
That's actually generating sort of VDB particles, its own particle system. So it's taking a sphere on the top, generating particles off of it, assigning a solver. There's two solvers. There's a gas solver and there's a regular solver. And so it's putting a solver on those particles, making them go down, assigning a collision field by the toroid. It's very, if you go to the nodes, it's pretty simple actually. You go to the nodes of the null.
Come on, stop.
Is it purely CPU based or can it?
Purely CPU based. Unfortunately.
So all the dynamics are happening with this VDB solvers?
Yeah, they're all, it's not using any of the effects emitter or anything like that.
Mm.
That's the one in just the. So you'll see it's actually really pretty simple.
Is it multi-threaded?
There we go.
Full on. It pegs the whole thing, pegs everything.
So this is what was doing that.
Yeah, essentially, it assigns, you can see like the cube, which is on the bottom, and then the toroid, which will be the top two nodes. They feed into a Boolean, get combined, and the output of that feeds into the collision, so that's our collision. And then on the bottom, the leftmost bottom node, you'll have a sphere that generates particles via the scatter, and it feeds into the particle system of the solver, and then the output it's a really simple setup.
And we actually told it to be blobby.
Yeah. And the filters are really cool because if you look at it without the filter, if you bypass the filter, you can kind of get your typical cottage cheese and stuff
Ooh.
that are used to seeing.
That's kind of
Once you
cool.
apply a filter, and this one I think is just a Gaussian filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the
Cute.
term in real flow for when you're building.
There we go.
Applying
Yeah.
a filter to get the nice smooth look.
And it's the same thing here. There's a whole bunch of different filters and a whole bunch of different options, but it's
It's a huge
useful.
difference. Makes a huge difference.
Filtered,
it's
unfiltered, and then
not
filtered.
Useful to useful. Something like
Bluntly
that.
put, but yeah.
Well, that's cool. See, this is why you could do a meeting just on OpenVDB, because it's like a modeling system,
Yeah,
but
there's
dynamically.
2 videos on the LightWave thing too that I kind of talk a little bit about it, going through some
Okay. I'll have to,
generating clouds out of specific objects and stuff like that. It's cool.
can we create volumes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do we have a scene for that?
Just if you want to, just load the dinosaur again, or actually no, just do a toroid just because it's quick.
So, fresh scene.
Yeah.
Okay. Toroid. It's not called a toroid. Oh, yeah, there it is.
No, there it is. Yeah.
Oh, you may have noticed my mouse didn't move because now you can navigate the pop-ups with the keyboard.
Nice.
So then make a null object.
Make a null. That's easy. That's
That's
over
typically
here.
how you
Right,
start.
null.
Just make a null.
Okay, so I got a null and a toroid
So then you apply the OpenVDB evaluator.
to the null.
Sorry, never mind, because we're going to do a smoke thing. So that's
Mhm.
the null, you change the primitive type to OpenVDB.
Oh.
So
There we
that's
go.
the difference. If you want smoke, you do it there via OpenVDB. If you want a solid object, it's an object replacement plugin.
So for smoke, it's this one. For the level set, the solid mush stuff, it'd be this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So for smoke, we're going to use this one.
So if you go to the node editor, and then, want to create a fog volume or a smoke thing from an object, you would want to go to the OpenVDB, and there's a thing called mesh to volume.
Okay.
In there, you select the toroid, and you can specify here to create a fog volume, which is what we want, and then just change local to world. That just means that if we eventually move the toroid, that those transforms get passed through.
Okay.
And so very simply, if you just plug the grid now into the scattering
Mm-hmm.
go back to your, keep that open.
Oh.
It's alright. And
Yeah.
just click that little eye on
The little eye. Oh,
in
on
the
this.
object properties there. Click that little eye symbol on the scattering.
Yep.
And
The check or the eye?
no, the
is-
check.
Okay.
And if you now look at the viewport and hide the original toroid,
Okay. Hiding the original toroid.
just
Plunk.
you
Ooh.
can see that that's been converted to a small wallet, which will look incredibly boring because it's just a fog volume. So if we now go to the node editor again, and in between the connection, plugin, and noise, and
Okay.
into the noise input of the noise, just feed your procedural turbulence.
Okay. Just the value.
Yeah, just the value. And so now if you take a look at it, maybe update.
Oh, it
So
It changed a bit.
If you change
Oh,
the,
yeah.
change the contrast a little bit,
mm-hmm. Move this back over.
like 100%. And now you should be able to, you don't have to,
There we go.
so now you can kind of see if you render it, you'll get your typical sort of, you know, if you wanted to make a bunny
Yeah.
with clouds, and of course hide the original.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
There you go.
We have made smoke.
So you just force the fog to fill the volume of whatever your model
And
is.
again, the nice thing is, once you have something like that set up, you could just replace the object with a different shape. And, you know, so you don't have to redo cloud setups 10 times, but you just have it once and you just replace the objects.
Let's try it. Did it? Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to change to adjust the scale, but
Yep.
you kind of get the.
You get the idea.
That's cool.
You can also, if you want to make it more visible, go back into those properties. The object properties, and change the no. It's
Nope.
Okay. The scattering scale.
Mm-hmm.
Change it to something like 10. You should be able to see some more. But
There we go.
and if you change the scale of the noise a little bit, then you'll have also something on the legs, and that would be no better.
If you were to deform the object, does the that's
Yeah.
cool. So you could have a windsock doing this and use that for a chimney smoke or train smoke.
Windsock.
Well, take a cylinder, so I guess you'd have to have the ends sealed off. It wouldn't be enough to have an open-ended cylinder, you need sealed ends. But then you'd run a turbulence texture through it, so it'd be getting wider and then you run OpenVDB through it so that it would be expanding.
Yeah, you can. There's actually I made a scene of for chimneys type stuff, or even like when you have the puffs of smoke coming out of something. You can use that for. It's really easy to set up too.
Nice.
That's the gas solver.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
Thanks for running me through that.
it's pretty neat.
So, we have some... If there's any questions, let me know. otherwise, I'm gonna show. We've got some new options. D-Spike, which I didn't get too much change in this test scene, but it's there. It's supposed to help with fireflies where the anti-aliasing just can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
So you can try that out, and it's supposed to help with removing fireflies. But if you've just got general noise like this, and it's got horrible settings, you wouldn't want to go with one sample and no adaptive sampling. But this is just to show off the new GPU noise filter. This only runs on NVIDIA cards, though. This is NVIDIA's noise filtering. So that's why. But you'll see.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I upgraded my card recently.
And this is not a stellar card. This is a 1050.
It doesn't have to be a good card.
Yeah. So it's...
Stills only.
What's that?
It's for stills only.
So
Yes.
AAA radiosity then.
Yes.
Understood.
This is meant for stills, and it's not our fault. Blame NVIDIA. Because it's their noise filter. They only... It's machine learning and all that stuff, and they only fed it still images. So the data set it was trained with was stills. It wasn't trained with animations. So you can probably see it looks smeary in some places. You get weird artifacting. That's a byproduct of having way too few samples. If I set this a bit higher, use some adaptive sampling, and set it so it's actually going to throw more samples and give more samples to the noise filter, it'll get better. So yeah.
Minimum samples. It gives you a finer noise to work with in the beginning, then you get adaptive sampling has more to clean up. Better sampling.
Yeah. So it's a balance. You don't want to throw too much data at it, here's an almost perfect image because you spend a lot of time getting it almost perfect. Whereas if it's a little cruddier, you might have saved yourself some time just throwing a little bit more noise its way. But if you throw too much noise its way, you're going to have weird smearing. But because of that smearing, that's why you wouldn't want to use this for animations, because you might get a weird crawl, unless you want to go for a more painterly look, in which case, have at it. So it's there. It's definitely good for just testing things out and seeing, how's this going to look? Is this the look I'm going for? What's the model look like? Without having to try and look through noise. So that's, if you're on a Mac, unfortunately, even if you have an NVIDIA GPU on your Mac, this won't work. Again, blame NVIDIA, who will then blame Apple. But if you're on Windows and you have a halfway decent NVIDIA card, this should work for you. So this is with it on, that's with it off.
Striking difference.
Yeah. So even once this is done rendering, you'll still have noise. It's fine, little bits of noise. It's almost grain, but it's not smooth. And none of these are really fireflies. Like maybe right in there is a firefly, because that looks like a really hot spot right there. But this is just general noise, so this would be, really good to be cleaned up with a noise filter. We've got the CPU one for people that can't get the GPU one to work, but it's the same thing. It's just for stills. You'll notice there's no options. Well, duh, because it's off. There's no options for the GPU one. That's because apparently there's no options from the NVIDIA optics denoiser. So there you go. That's new. So we do have image caching for huge images that are being loaded, right? So if you've got a really big Earth map, if you have image caching enabled, and you have to give it a folder, which
Okay, just
now it's not.
To demonstrate it.
Mm-hmm.
Saying now.
Clearing the scene.
Okay, bring up the task map, the task thing. Okay, go over to where it shows memory. the thing is
There.
no, the thing is the.
Oh, the
Performance?
this one.
That one, okay, and click on memory.
Yeah.
Okay, now say render the scene, just hit F9. No, okay, something fast. We can render something that renders fast. I mean,
It did render fast. It's
no,
done.
No, the whole scene.
Going by. Leave it on. There we go.
Okay.
So now the image viewer is going to have a bunch of images.
Yeah, okay, so the deal is what it used to do was it would just keep using up your memory until your machine crashed. So now what it'll do is it'll use that memory until it gets to 4 gigabytes and it'll stop. And what it does is it images that haven't been used in a long time, it rolls them off to disk. But it doesn't roll the whole image off, it just rolls it off in tiles. And so it's like one of those things, just set it, if you have a lot of RAM, don't set it to 4 gigs, set it to like 16 gigs or something, or 8 gigs. And you'll never run out of memory because all the old images are rolled off to disk.
But you can see here's where it got to when it was done with the image before. When it was set to 4 gigs, it got up to there. And now it's staying way lower, and
So
it's
a 512?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's capped the memory usage for images.
Yeah, but never set it to 512 in real life.
Well, yeah, but I was for demonstration purposes, it was set extremely low.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is you still have the limitation of how long it takes to get stuff off the hard drive and to the hard drive. So the thing is what you do is you set it up. The other thing too is the image editor always makes a copy of images when you're rendering. So the thing is what this will do is if you have an image map and then you hit F9 and the image, the renderer makes a copy of it, the old image map can be rolled off the disk while you're rendering, and the one that you're actually using stays in memory and it's automatic. So that you just like double the amount of image memory that you can use just doing that.
So that's new. That's new to 2019, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the physical sky, that's something new, and it's something I worked on, sorta. So we've got in the backdrop, we've got environments, and we got this physical sky. I'm not going to try and pronounce that. And so we've got pick location. Actually, let me go ahead and set this to, it's black. Oh, there we go. Just trying to look through the planet. So let me tilt up. So I don't know about you, but I would not know the azimuth and elevation of where we're at right now. And I'm not even going to try and learn the math, but I know that we're right around there. And let's get the current date, current time. Boom.
Nice.
And it will figure up the math and put that in there. Yes, so it's got a pop-up of different places.
More artist friendly.
So it's got presets.
Hey, you left New Zealand off the map.
What's that? So it's different locations, and then hit OK, and now we can see, oh, that's what it looks like, in that location. That same UI is also available in the light. Not the light itself, but the motion options. There's the sunspot plugin. And now this is not a new plugin. This is part of SkyTracer. But now it's got that same pick location UI. So, although at least here you've got, the time and then the location in like human speak versus math genius speak. So you can pick your location and then, get date, get time. Okay. And then this is a motion modifier. What it does is it actually repositions the light in the scene to where the sun should be given these settings, which I think you can still use in here. You can tell it to use the light. So it's the same sort of thing. Either use none, which will do all this stuff, or use the light, and you can see that this is now gone. Whoa, there's the light. Yeah. So that's the new physical. Yeah.
Backdrop?
Yes, it's a backdrop in effects. So if you go to backdrop, let me close everything. Go to backdrop, and then it's in add environment, and it's sun sky. Wait a second. Why does it say sun sky there? What the? Physical sky at. Oh, jeez. That needs to be fixed. Uh-oh. So that's a translation problem that needs to be sorted. So, yeah. Because this should say physical sky there. Okay. I'll be reporting that. But,
0.3.
yeah. So that's where it's at. There's no clouds. That's
What's the star?
the star. That's the sun.
Add star, remove
You can
star.
add more. If you want
Ew,
more.
so you can do Tatooine.
Yeah.
Tatooine, Los Angeles. Very cool.
So that's new. And what's that?
I like your map that you put in.
Oh, thank you.
Putting in the map.
Yep. And the map supports the scaling up to 2x. It is a bitmap, and it can only be, I don't want to put an 8K image in there, but it does look fine on a 2K or a 4K. This is 2K right now. It's full HD. You can scale it twice as big for a 4K screen. It'll look fine.
Now for the map, is it just point to the town and there it'll be, or can you do something like latitude and longitude?
Yeah. You can do this, and you can see the values changing.
Oh, okay, I see.
Or you can just come down here and move them manually. If you know what the value is that you want. This is the easy part, and then you can get more complicated down here.
Maybe
Or
I just
get
type it in.
Yeah, so if you already know it, yeah. And then it's got presets that just set. I think they also set the time zone, although the time zone will sometimes fluctuate because of daylight savings time.
Yes.
So I can't recall if that's the standard time or the savings time. It's not that smart.
Is there any way that you can add to the location preset?
No. You can feature request that, though. It's not impossible. It's just that this was having a user editable presets was not in the specification.
Okay.
So
Those have to be a pain.
And soon we're going to be able to replace the map.
has that been requested?
Yeah.
So you can put Mars there,
Yeah.
Tatooine?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
If you're on a different planet.
2 or 3 suns,
Yeah, what's the point of having 2 suns if you can't do that?
Oh, that's right, we can have multiple suns.
Stars.
most stars are bipolar.
So that's the new sun sky / physical sky, whatever it's called. It's new. It's cool.
So, and that's basically to give you a physically accurate backdrop without.
I've seen some really nice
Yeah.
renders done with that approach. Mostly looking over Dave's shoulder.
Yeah. So that's that thing. There's improved FBX interchange. I don't have any FBXs on this machine, but this is the interchange, which the thinking behind it is you would have your scene, and then almost like a whole other scene unto itself is your FBX file. And so you'd be able to transfer things in and out of your LightWave scene or your FBX scene more granularly versus the old method where you just load it in and then it bakes out LWOs, and I think it even builds an LWS. I can't remember. But this is the new thing, and it's got options for things. And then you use these arrows to transfer stuff back and forth, and you can load. Right now there's just the FBX interchanger. This is a whole system. Again, unfortunately I don't have any FBX on this machine, but you can get details about it and then load them. like read a file.
And you can still use the FBX file format, right?
I don't know.
In terms of
Well, like, you know, FBX 2014, 2009.
when you write,
And when you, I'm sure when you load it, it can understand up to a point.
when you load it, it goes all the way up to 19, I think even.
Nice. It's when you export.
I don't want to export right now,
Okay.
but loading is probably one of the best FBX loaders out of any DCC right now.
I guess it only matters if you're trying to get a camera out to another package.
With the camera, you are probably still okay.
Okay.
Just no bones.
Oh gosh, no. This is just like where I work. Camera interchange is done through FBX between Max and Maya. So that's pretty much the main thing.
I can show Metamorphic real quick.
Please do.
And I see a limbic export right there, so that would be an option.
That's
to
the
get
same
camera
as
out.
before.
It's,
Nothing has changed there.
Cool.
But the importer supports, vertex color now, all kinds of blend shapes, point caches.
Very cool.
so Metamorphic. So I have a really dense sphere. And I applied the Metamorphic modifier. And here's Metamorphic. Let's go into sculpt mode. Now we're in sculpt mode. And I can sculpt.
Now you truly have my interest.
And it's got different options for doing different sorts of things.
Go to a different frame.
Now I'll go to a different frame. Let's go to frame 60. Okay.
Nice.
Now, I notice you have like, what is it, 7 brushes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way that you can add brushes to it, or?
No, what do you mean by, you mean these things over here?
Yeah.
Well, they're not so much brushes, it's what the brush does.
You can create your own textures for the brushes.
Yeah. Isn't there a node editor for that too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can,
Can't see from here. I think it's a brush node, middle, last, down left.
use brush nodes. Edit brush nodes. And so then you can do all sorts of fancy things. I don't know. This is
Just a turbulence, if you put a turbulence into the alpha. And if you wanted to make it 100%.
make what 100%?
The contrast, just so you can see it.
Okay. Oh, let's go with clay. So it's doing
A little bit bigger the brush.
make the brush bigger.
So what's this under the hood of OpenVDB?
Nope. It's custom.
Cool.
It's just pushing and pulling points.
That's very cool.
Oh, there we go. Now it's definitely looking different.
It's not just for sculpting, you can paint weights, you can do all kinds of different things.
Ooh.
I was thinking of a way that I can make, stretch and shrink blobs to, build faces and stuff like ZBrush.
It's by no means ZBrush.
That's what I kind of gathered.
So that's all pulling. Can you push too? Like
I believe so. Just don't ask.
Alt, I believe.
Yeah,
No,
the-
that-
when you're using the tool.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
No, it's control.
Hold down shift to smooth it
is the data stored in the LightWave scene file, or is it stored to
in a
disk?
scene file. You can also bake it to a morph they are. And you can also do things like, the footprints in the snow sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually drag, cross, and record. So if you actually play the timeline, you can actually do the footprints like that, for example.
If I just get rid of this, it'll. Yeah.
But this is, particularly, this is just an effect that you use in render, right?
It's not a rendering trick.
This is geometry.
Yeah, it's an actual. Here I can show the. It's got polygons and points.
Okay.
It's not adding to the mesh.
Yeah, it's not creating any geometry, but it's pushing it. So you want to do with a fairly dense mesh. With a cube, you're not going to do much.
Mesh that you bring into layout.
Yeah.
Which means you can correct anything that has to be corrected on the fly. Like this could be whiteout for a scene,
Yeah.
touch-ups for a scene.
Yeah, like bones with muscles, you want to get the
Yeah,
right things.
you
when
can
it's
drive it
bending.
by
Yeah.
angles, which is really nice.
This doesn't have to be like doing all the heavy lifting, but I think we could use this for corrective work.
Mhm. Yeah.
There was there was a video I found the other day from Maya, and basically it talks about how to modify a model on the fly to get certain cartoonistic effects, and somebody learned how to do it while I was working over at Sony Animation. And it was like when you look at Dracula, and he gets really mad, and he has like looks over there, and his back literally expands, and his neck gets really thick, and and both his arm and his legs are like pencil straight. There's nothing to it. His shape is very abstract.
I did a thing.
Yes, you did. That's nice.
So I was thinking about something like that.
I guess if you hook this up with a procedural texture, you could stamp like skin texture and stuff like that at points. Is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
You can really, I've used it for cracks in the wall that are building up,
Yeah.
in crumble and stuff like that. This actually has a lot of uses. And again, it's not just for painting, it's also for weight maps, so you can use it for placing instancers and things like that.
But I can't say. I guess the thing I'm thinking is I can't save that image and export it.
It's just an object. You can do whatever you want with it.
Look at the wireframe, Ken.
You could use a surface baking camera if it had UVs on it, and you could bake out a map from it, but it would have to have UVs on it from the get-go.
But you can save the object. It's just, if you save the object as transformed or if you save an endomorph, it has sculpts to morphs on the bottom left.
Ah,
Okay.
that's great.
I'm trying something. Hopefully it'll work. Yay! So I've painted a vertex color map that's being used to drive the color of the sphere. So this color map was created by Metamorphic, and I have that applied. Actually, let me go change that to maybe white. No. Did I set it? Yep. Interesting. So now I can paint color onto it. The data is stored on the vertices though, so it's only going to be as detailed as your mesh. So again, if you had a cube, that's only 4 points. No, it's 8 points that you can put color on, and in between each point it'll interpolate. But because this is a fairly dense mesh, it's looking fairly detailed.
So the denser the mesh, the finer that line would be.
It'd be how blurred. There's probably some way to. There's some shortcut for making the brush smaller.
It's the hardness on the
Hardness.
and the radius on the bottom.
Radius. There we go.
It's also, I think, control middle or control right click in the UI.
So yeah, there's a smaller. And actually, I think it might show up. It shows something in. Maybe it doesn't.
Maybe texture? No, I don't know about texture shades.
Oh, there we go. So it, and that probably doesn't. Yeah, it's not as laggy. So yeah, but you can see here that because even on my mesh,
The density of the
yeah,
is not-
you can only see it. It's only the points that hold the data, so that's why you got this more cube appearance. Now you can see, you know, it's on that point, but not this point until I go over that point and try and draw on it. Ooh, not that one. So that's metamorphic with stuff. I don't know if that's, no, that wouldn't be animated because that's on a map. But the deformations are animated. Any questions? This will take you to the documentation for it. Straight to it. It's got an open documentation button. Takes you straight to the documentation for Metamorphic.
Fantastic.
So,
And all of that, because it's really just, you know, changing geometry, you can also then feed that back into a VDB, you know, so to create a cloud out of it or whatever you do. So all the systems kind of work together.
So you can paint on your dinosaur and change the shape of
Well,
the
like even
cloud
if you
know,
start with this as a cloud shape,
Yeah.
you know, and now you want to change a cloud shape a little bit, you could just do that.
adjust your mesh.
Yeah.
And
Do it interactively.
They use ZBrush, Mari, Mudbox, and a couple guys use Substance. In the end, they all bake out their textures for use in
Yeah.
Max. And I've heard only good things about Substance. I just
Yeah, it's really like Painter is definitely different than Designer.
is Designer the one that lets you like use a smoke simulation to do like to like dirty up your model?
That's Painter.
Painter can do that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Painter basically has particle paint.
Wow.
Yeah, Designer is like, it's a complex node system that you can plug things in and.
Do you remember Darktree?
Dave's mentioned it.
It's that essentially, but on steroids.
That's Designer.
That's Designer.
Okay.
So you design your own things that you can then load into Painter, or you can bake out into texture maps and just load as images.
Now that Adobe has it, do you think it'll be shipping with
I think
the
so.
Adobe Creative Suite?
Probably.
Okay, then
It kind of
I
bugs
don't
me
know
out
when.
because the
I
deal
don't
I,
know when yet, but I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to go, because I mean every single one of their purchased or acquisitions went that way. They either killed it or they added it.
there is stuff in Creative Suite that Dave and I still haven't dug into. There's
I made a wad of chewing gum.
Yeah, it's like they have what, 4
Yay.
or 5 different web designers now.
Oh, I was thinking more like there's. Oh,
And there's
Mine
that
is
one
teeth
that, you know,
marks.
share creative or share user experiences. It's like, what does that even mean? It's like, what is it, a text thing you write reviews?
I didn't think that much of it because I already had some old tools kicking around that I just basically incorporated that into LightWave. But
There's
Yeah.
nothing like Painter.
now they got but then they showed me Substance and it looked Substance Painter and it looked pretty cool. And I took the class and all that they had. They had this one day class over at SIGGRAPH that showed how to use all of it.
so I'm doing
Sorry?
Oh no, sorry, I'm doing a Google search for substance, and the first thing it suggests is substance abuse. Substance abuse counselor.
What's that?
Sorry.
Was it either of my
Okay, I just wanna know what
Hey, look at it from my angle. I'm usually doing that on a government computer, and
boxes of
that
Hello
throws
Fresh.
some real red flags.
Some delivery truck is parked in their way.
I can't do anything I can't do anything gaming. I can't do Unreal on a government computer. I can't do Unity. I can do Unity on a government computer, but not Unreal, because it's owned by Epic, and Epic's a gaming company.
I'm just curious.
Dumb.
I just want to find out when it's going to get added to Creative Cloud.
Eventually.
That's your problem.
Well, you know, the deal is though, is when I bought it for my own use, they promised me that after a year of ownership, that they offer you a perpetual license for it, and I figured, hey, I'll just get a perpetual license
Yeah,
for
it's
it.
always been like that. When to own.
Oh, like
Yeah.
ZBrush. Like ZBrush, you buy a license once, and you get or at least for a while, they're just giving everyone upgrades. To
So
the
far,
ZBrush.
they've never charged one
Yeah,
out.
they never charged. I
We'll
got
see. We'll see in
ZBrush
5 days or whatever it is.
It's been
And I paid
for
like
like $100
$600,
and I still
$800
get the
for it.
latest version.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Can't beat it.
It's great.
I guess they just keep expanding their user base instead of
Yeah.
trying to charge the same group of artists.
Try to do things in mass. But yeah, like I said, they had a deal where if I bought a year of it, that then I could buy a perpetual license, and now they're owned by Adobe. I'm probably gonna have to buy it with. I'll probably get it with the Creative Cloud. So, which I admit I'm slaved into now.
I'm just fiddling with the shape
I'm
primitive.
sorry.
The shape primitive now has an empty volume where you can just create the mesh from scratch instead of starting with a sphere and then moving it around.
Oh, that's why it's empty?
Yes. But you define let me show the node. So this is the node that's going in and it's painting the color. Well, it's providing an input to a gradient. That's why it's getting the different colors. And then it's also using this thing, and then this thing, and then pipes that into displacement, and that displacement value is what's defining the actual shape. And so the procedural that's used is defining how that goes, and I'm using the procedural node.
There's just been a guy that created a Mendelbulb plugin for LightWave that makes use of that.
Oh, fun.
The capsule is the base shape.
There's a couple different base shapes. But yeah, it's similar to VDB in a sense, except that
You don't end up with a
detail
mesh.
is defined by, the detail is defined by displacements.
So this is based on those primitives?
Yeah, this is a render primitive, so this doesn't, there's just a null. There's nothing else there. So there's no, there's nothing in RAM other than a null and some other stuff.
It's like a hypervoxel.
Yeah, it's a logically based or logically created. It's when it actually renders.
Those nodes are under what category then?
Let's see. This shape
Distance tools?
distance tools, yes. Which is down here. So, there's even a Mobius. Oh my god.
So the shape CSG, wow, that's cool.
So you have to have one of those as a starting point?
You can create your own.
That's what I was curious about, the shape CSG.
That's cool.
Could it take any polygonal object?
No, not right now.
Oh, no, okay.
You'd have to construct that polygonal object.
So Ken, how did you do that shape twist thing? Is that just one?
Yeah, it's just a Mobius. I just piped Mobius in straight into displacement. Now this is the surface for this empty volume, which is just a null that's been set to the shape primitive and then what shape will an empty volume. Because we have These other ones were there before,
Uh-huh.
but this one's new, and so it starts empty. Whereas these other ones,
Yeah, the,
it's like a sphere.
the other ones always had a remnant.
Yeah.
You could never get rid of it.
So with these ones, you'd start with a sphere, and then you could displace it, but you'd still have parts of a sphere sticking out somewhere. But the empty volume, there's nothing until you actually define it with the displacement.
So the empty volume is there, and then what did you add to get that
Uh,
tubular?
In the surface, there's a lot of junk in here. Just ignore that. Just this Mobius,
Thing?
yeah, which is under distance tools, and then Mobius.
So if somebody wrote a Godzilla distance tool and stuck it in,
Yes.
you'd have a Godzilla shape.
By the way,
Yes.
CSG
Yeah.
used to be all caps.
Yeah, you could actually.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, because it is caps on the other one. Oh, not clip. There we go. So that's the
The problem there is
Capsule.
that you go over the bounds of the initial setup volume, so you have to be careful to stay in between. I think your initial size was only
oh, well, that's cool. Radius. Yeah, there we go. Now it's an actual sphere.
so you have to, whatever you create, you're creating it inside of that volume. So if you're actually going outside of the volume, it would clip.
Well, that's cool.
You can animate, of course, all the parameters too.
Yeah, you'd have to pipe something in.
Yeah.
Hey, they don't match up. Is that because it's fractional?
Yep.
Looks like it would be good with a nice glaze with, doesn't it?
I want sprinkles on it. Now, how do I get sprinkles on it?
Yeah, now I'm getting hungry. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you, Ken.
That's not a question. You're welcome.
What did, sorry to say.
I'm getting hungry.
So yeah, this meeting is just to, get back into the routine and then touch on some stuff, at least a little bit. And hopefully you saw that there's areas like OpenVDB and Metamorphic and the shading stuff, which I didn't, I mentioned it's there, but I didn't use it. These new material components. So there's definitely more to everything. It's just I want to touch on a little bit of everything, and hopefully I didn't jump around too much. And I didn't even know about this stuff. So that's cool. Yeah, we have new UV tools, but I don't have anything to UV, so
One.
I can make a cube.
Now just make a sphere and atlas it.
I will make a sphere and atlas it, as suggested.
That's a ball.
Okay, so let's look at the UV texture. There's nothing there. Okay, so... And then atlas. Okay. Create. Okay, so now I've got my atlas.
So if you go to the UV tab,
The UV tab
all the way top,
Oh.
tab.
up here.
So one of the first things would be the select UV islands. So if you select one of the polys in one of the islands,
Mm-hmm.
you can go to, there should be something
Yep.
called select islands. There
Yep.
you go. So you can select individual islands.
It's like select connected, but just in the UV view.
That's useful.
If you wanted to keep those selected, if you wanted to rectangularize that, there's a rectangularized grid, which straightens those.
Also useful. Is there a way to set which UDIM tile?
So if you now, if you deselect that, for example, if you now go to the Move UDIM tool,
Move UDIM.
so if you click drag it to the next view,
Ah.
so you
Move?
now can go whether you want to move.
Oh, it moves everything.
stuff. And I think if you select
So if I select this, select the island, and then move the UDIM, it'll move just the selection.
That tile.
Is there, I don't suppose there's an auto scale to fit that tile.
That is an ODTools.
So if it's not in
Pretty
here,
somewhat.
You
it-
use them too?
if it's not in here, it's
I
in
don't actually anymore.
ODTools.
He's like, I'll take a check.
Right.
Hit the more button.
You use that?
I don't
Try
do too
pod
many
spread
UV
UV.
stuff.
You'd be longing for doing UV stuff if you were using.
Really?
Oh.
Oh,
What are you trying to do? No, what was that tool that you did?
Quad spread UV.
Yeah, it's not meant for that.
Yeah, we confused the algorithm.
Yeah, it's.
no, just curious.
Don't.
The UDIM tiles at work, like they're more approximate, so that, I mean, just grabbing it and scaling it to kind of fit the
Yeah.
space will be fine.
But I wanna break it.
So that's new stuff. There's view modes as well.
Ah, yeah, there's view modes. Yeah.
Somewhere.
Underwire.
Yeah. Stretch. So this will show you how stretched they are.
Useless. Go to
It's supposed to show you how stretched they are.
the.
Scale.
It's useful.
Yeah.
They work with color correction?
Yeah, they do actually.
Okay, good.
Angle.
The angle is but go to the overlap. It's not bad if you just drag one of the points.
Just one of the points. Okay.
Just drag them into each other, sort of thing, so you can quickly see, whether
That's good.
UVs are overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to a scale map, you can also see that's a good standard view whether you have stretching. Or
It's just not live as you drag it.
no. It's live if you click and drag more often.
It's not live.
If you tap the button.
Every pixel.
Yeah. There was something else. Yeah, actually, one of the tools is select UV overlap, so that's not bad. Right above the UV island. So it selects areas but only works halfway. So
Yeah, it should have selected some stuff here.
it shouldn't select the stuff in the middle, but yeah, there's some beginnings.
Yep. So there was some stuff done in Modeler. Yep. Close.
But
Well-
actually, also the UV tab didn't used to be there, so that was
Mm.
reorganized to kind of at least put all the UV tools in one place.
Yep. Of course, you don't need the menu at all anymore either.
That's right.
Now, what is the...
Why don't you use that menu thing to
To
find
get
out?
rid of the menu?
On mine it's tab, but that must be a custom.
No, that just gets rid of the windows. There's got to be a thing. Where'd it go? Hide toolbar. There we go. Durr. So hide toolbar, and yet,
Maybe I have that on tap on mine.
and it you can still get to everything. That's
Yeah, I mean, especially, I hate to admit it, but especially if you use ODTools, that thing is a lifesaver. I have so many tools that are sometimes people go like, I can't find it. It's like with this, it's so good.
Can you get to hide toolbar in the flat menu?
probably not. Oh yeah, it's like Control F2, I think. No, maybe it's Alt F2. Yeah, it's Alt F2. We use a funky symbol for the Alt.
Yeah, I get confused by that every time too.
So it's Alt F2 to hide the menu or toggle the menu. Okay.
Just remembering this stuff, you know?
Editors, more windows, hide. Okay, there we go. Well, that's it. It's almost 5.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's the only thing I do in